Hi everyone, so this video is going to be another kind of body image, weight related type of video, and it's going to be quite a controversial topic. I think some of you are going to really disagree with me, but I wanted to talk about weight, as in the weight that it says on the scales and whether or not that's a healthy indication of your physical state. And I know that all the doctors are obsessed with your BMI, which is your body mass index. If you don't know what that is, Google it. It's just a way of kind of telling whether or not you're in the healthy weight category for your height. And they're obsessed with your BMI, and I feel like we're just obsessed with scales in general. I get so many comments every single day from girls and women saying to me, like, oh, you look so good, you've lost weight, do you mind me asking how much you weigh? And I've said before that I really don't mind saying how much I weigh. It's not an issue for me at all. I'm not ashamed of it or anything, like I don't care. But I don't want to say how much I weigh because I don't want anyone to compare, because I think weight is such a individual thing, and I don't think it actually means as much as people think it does. So I don't want to kind of say, oh, like I weigh 6 stone, which, obviously I don't. I'm just giving it as an example. I weigh 6 stone, and then people look at it and think, oh no, well I'm like 2 inches shorter than her and I weigh 8 stone, so I better lose weight to be like that, because it does happen. And I know that you're probably thinking, sort of, who thinks that? But don't forget as well that when you're younger and that kind of thing, you are more influenced by such things. So I don't want to kind of encourage any negativity on that sort of subject, so that's why I'm trying to not mention it. But I used to be scale obsessed. I was one of those that would weigh myself every single day, and it would have to be on digital scales. But then if I'd gone up like 2 grams, I would panic and restrict what I'd eat that day, because I'd be like, oh my god, I've put weight on. And I didn't actually realise how stupid that is, and that it could have just been water or loads of different things. And your weight fluctuates so much, like around the time of the month you'll be a little bit heavier, and it is something that's just so kind of individual, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you've gained weight all the time either. So I really kind of was obsessed with it, and I'd weigh myself every single day. And then when we moved into this house, I broke my scales when we were moving. So then I just picked up a sort of cheap pair after we'd moved. You know how you're always like being cheap after you've moved because moving's so expensive. I picked up a pair from Argos that were like £4 or £5, and they weren't digital, they were just like normal scales, and they kind of said weird weights in different areas. So if you did it in the kitchen, you'd be a stone heavier. If you did it in there, you'd be a stone heavier. Then my boyfriend weighed himself, and he said that it said that he was half a stone more than he is, and that he doesn't weigh that, and that he'd weighed himself at the gym and that wasn't his correct weight. And so I just thought, well, those scales are crap, there's no point in me really using those because they're not very accurate. But I still wanted to be able to kind of track my weight loss and track my progress, which I know a lot of people sort of say, oh, just go by the feel of your clothes and that kind of thing, and I always thought that was a complete myth, to be honest. I sort of thought, yeah, that's not going to work, and I need kind of like instant gratification when it comes to that sort of thing. So I got myself a tape measure. Now this is just a sewing tape measure. It's got centimetres on one side and inches on the back. I prefer doing it in centimetres just because it's what I'm used to. But it was a really great thing for me to get, because what I ended up doing was actually tracking my inch loss. And so my hips went from being, let me find it, where is it, 90, they were about 93, so 93 is there. That was how wide my hips were, 93 centimetres, which is about 36 inches. So that is the kind of biggest my hips have ever been. And then in terms of weight, when I was that size, I was also the heaviest I'd ever been. Then when I lost the weight, and I think I've probably lost about 2 stone going by the last time I weighed myself at the doctor's, and my weight, I think, is, I want to say that it's more than you'd think, but then I don't know if it actually is, because obviously when you look at me, I'm not like a really slim girl. I look like I've got a little bit of meat on me, so I don't know if like I weigh more than I look, kind of thing. I don't know, but I'm definitely on the higher end of weight, and my BMI is healthy, but it's kind of on the higher end. And I've never ever been a light person, and I think it's just a genetic thing as well, because my mum is very, very slim, but she is quite heavy, and like she weighs more than people who look bigger than her. So I am really, really convinced that weight is just a complete, not complete false economy, because obviously, you know, if you're overweight, it does mean something. It is important to make sure that you don't get to that point where it's unhealthy and all that kind of thing. But I think we're so obsessed with being a certain weight that it kind of just makes it even harder, because at the moment I am, in terms of size, I think the smallest I've ever been. So my hips now are 86 centimetres, which is this big. So they've gone down a fair amount, and 86 centimetres is 33.5 inches. So that's how big my hips are now, and that's the smallest my hips have ever been. Even when I have weighed what I weigh now, my hips have never been that small, and that to me is exercise. I used to kind of be one of those exercise snobs in a way, where I didn't really work out and I didn't think it made much difference, and I didn't really care. But actually I can now see that exercising has really, really helped my body tremendously. And if you are someone that doesn't believe in exercise, I strongly urge you to reconsider, because it does really make a difference, and it is really important for your figure. And my shape has really changed since I've started exercising, and I don't do strenuous exercise. I do interval training on an exercise bike 5 days a week, and then sometimes kind of DVDs, and I'll try and do, like, you know, 50 squats and that kind of thing. But I don't believe that weight is a real indication of your looks, if that makes sense. I think weight should be used to track your health, but even then, if you think about it, sometimes it doesn't make sense. Like, calculating someone's BMI doesn't really make sense, because if you think of, you know, someone, for example, like a rugby player who are incredibly fit but are big guys and pure solid muscle, if they weigh themselves, their BMI is going to say that they're obese. But they're not obese, they're really healthy, but their BMI is going to say that they're obese. So I think it's just kind of like a little bit of an old-fashioned way of looking at it. And I know that they do things these days, like if a woman's waist is over, I think it's 35 inches, I can't exactly remember, then you're at a higher risk of heart disease and all that kind of thing. And obviously that's a really good thing to be doing, but I just think that it's so easy to become weight obsessed and scale obsessed, which is why I ditched the scales, because I just don't feel like it's worth having them around, because they end up controlling you. And if you are one of those people, you know, it's got a really healthy body image and the scales don't control you, then that's great, that's amazing. But if you are like me, and I know that there are a lot of you who are, because I get comments from you, then a good idea, in my opinion, would be to dump the scales, because I feel like I've got quite an obsessive personality, but you can't really get obsessed with measuring yourself, because there isn't that kind of acceptable notion of, oh, you're 5'3", so your hips should be this size. There isn't that kind of pre-calculated notion, whereas in people's head they'll kind of be like, well, you're 5'1", so therefore you should weigh about 8 stone. And then if you don't weigh 8 stone, you're always pressurizing yourself and thinking, oh, I weigh too much, I bet she weighs less than me, and all that kind of thing. And it's just really, really destructive, which is why I feel like if you are scale obsessed, ditch the scales and really do the cliche of going by how your clothes fit. So right now, I don't care how much I weigh. I care that my clothes fit me. I'm a size 10, I fit into a size 10, and that is fine. That is just how it's going to be, because I am a sort of heavier individual. I am a sort of slightly chunkier girl, and I'm never going to be 8 stone. It's not going to happen. So I have found that not weighing yourself is actually the better option, and it doesn't mean that you're going to gain weight and that you're kind of unaware and being a bit of a slob about it, because as I said, I do track my kind of progress, but now I don't do it all the time. I go by how I feel and how my clothes fit, and it's just so much more of a healthy attitude of doing it, and you don't get obsessed, which is just a complete lifesaver for me, and I'm sure it will for so many of you, which is why the title of this video is going to be Ditching the Scales, because I really think that it's a good thing to do, and I really think that it will benefit so many of us. But I'd love to know what you think about this subject. If you don't agree with me, if you do agree with me, let me know in the comments. I love reading your comments about these types of things, and if you've got any requests for other ideas of these types of videos, always give me them, because I love making these, but they can be quite hard to come up with ideas for. But I would really love to know what you think, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye.